The polar bear. There's one animal on this planet that doesn't need a reason to come for you. You didn't cross its territory, you didn't startle its cubs. To a polar bear, a person walking across the ice is simply the slowest warm thing in sight, and that's the whole calculation. Every other predator you're about to meet had to be pushed into hunting people. This one starts there. It's the largest land carnivore alive, with big males pushing 1,500 pounds, and it lives in a frozen desert where the only thing on the menu is meat. And it hunts the way the ice rewards, patient and silent, stalking across open white until it's close enough to sprint. Most people assume a polar bear only turns on humans when it's starving or cornered near some Arctic town. But the records of bears stalking healthy adults across open country tell a colder story. The predatory drive isn't a malfunction, it's the default. Think about what that nose can do. A polar bear can smell a seal through 3 feet of solid ice. Now stretch that across open tundra, and a person standing downwind becomes detectable from over half a mile away, long before that person sees anything at all. For most predators, there's a switch, off by default, that has to be flipped before they'll hunt a human. The polar bear was born with it on. In its world, there's no such thing as a creature too dangerous to eat. There's only food that hasn't been caught yet. The saltwater crocodile. The water you'd wade through without a second thought is exactly where this one is wading. It doesn't chase. It holds still, sometimes for days, in the shallows by the riverbank, having already watched you come to that same spot twice before. Because the thing that makes a saltwater crocodile lethal isn't its size. It's its patience and its memory. It's the largest reptile alive, stretching past 20 feet and topping 2,000 pounds, and it carries the strongest bite force ever measured in a living animal. It learns when people come to the water, and then it picks the morning. Between 2010 and 2020, saltwater crocodiles were tied to an estimated 1,350 attacks on people, more than 660 of them fatal. One strike, less than a second to clamp down, and then the death roll begins. The crocodile spinning fast enough underwater to tear a limb away while the victim is already being pulled under. A cold-blooded ambush hunter wastes nothing on the chase and saves everything for the kill, and it learns the habits of any prey that keeps returning to water. A village built along a river is the most predictable feeding schedule on Earth. In parts of its range, people don't ask whether a crocodile is in the river, they assume one is, and they plan their entire day around being wrong only once. The Sundarbans Tiger. Everywhere else on Earth, a tiger killing a person is a rare tragedy that makes the news. In one flooded delta straddling India and Bangladesh, it's a season's expected loss, counted almost like a tax. Same species, same size, same teeth as the tigers that avoid people their whole lives. Something about this place rewired them. The tigers of the Sundarbans hunt humans as a normal part of how they eat. In some years, the population kills dozens of people. These tigers swim between islands. They approach boats, and the honey collectors and fishermen who work the mangroves are the ones who pay for it. No other tiger population anywhere on the planet hunts people at this rate. And the reason is the place itself. The delta floods twice a day, washing away the scent markings a tiger normally uses to claim territory. So here, a tiger has to defend its ground in person. Natural prey is thin and hard to chase down on slick tidal mud. And after the cyclones that batter this coast, human bodies drift into the swamp, where generation after generation of tigers learn exactly what we are. The common version of this story says these tigers are just somehow meaner. The real driver is ecological, a flooded, prey-poor maze and a grim supply of the dead that flipped the behavior across the entire population. The switch the polar bear was born with, this place flips by hand, tide by tide, body by body, until hunting people stops being a deviation and starts being the menu. If you're the kind of person who wants more deep dives into the animals most people never really understand, I post new ones regularly, and subscribing really helps. Thanks. The Nile Crocodile. Somewhere along the Ruzizi River in Burundi, people describe a crocodile so large and so old that they gave it a name and a body count. They call him Gustav. And what's stranger than a crocodile linked to hundreds of deaths is what he reportedly did with the bodies afterward. Nile crocodiles already kill more people every year than any other crocodilian on Earth, but Gustav is something else. He's been estimated at over 18 feet, and local accounts tie him to as many as 300 deaths, though careful researchers put the real number far lower. He has never been caught. And his size, the very thing that makes him a legend, is also what may have turned him toward people. A crocodile this massive is too heavy and too slow to catch the quick antelope and fish he grew up hunting. So he scaled up his targets: hippos, buffalo, and the one large, slow mammal that gathers at the water's edge every single morning. In a place where people come to the river to draw water, to wash, to fish at the same fixed spots every day, the most reliable big meal around is a human routine. And here's the part that unsettles the legend. Despite the man-eater name, specialists who studied him noted that Gustav often left his victims uneaten. That reframes him entirely. Not a man-eater in the literal sense, but a man-killer, which is somehow worse. The terror isn't that he ate people, it's that he didn't always need to. A predator that can't catch what it used to learns to catch what it can, and we are remarkably easy to catch. The reticulated python. Once the coils are set, there's no struggle you can win. Every breath you take, the snake takes the slack, so the next breath comes in just a little shallower, and then there's no breath after the last one. For a long time, the idea that a snake could swallow a grown adult was treated as a tall tale. Then came the cases nobody could argue with. The reticulated python is the longest snake on Earth, capable of passing 20 feet, and it's an ambush constrictor that kills by suffocation, not by crushing bone. In 2018, in Indonesia, a 54-year-old woman was swallowed whole and recovered intact from inside the snake. Within a year, a second, almost identical case happened in the same region. It strikes, anchors with rows of backward curved teeth, and throws its coils around the body in under a second. Each time the prey exhales, the grip tightens, and within minutes, blood can't return to the heart, and consciousness is already gone. The reason it can take a person at all comes down to leverage, not strength. A constrictor doesn't overpower a human with muscle. It uses patience and a jaw that unhinges to pass a body wider than its own head. In rural farmland, where pythons and people work the same ground, that math occasionally lands on a person. The common story is that a constrictor crushes you to death. Turns out it doesn't crush at all. It cuts off circulation and breath, which is faster and far quieter. It's one of the only animals on this entire list that doesn't just kill a human, it makes the human disappear. The man-eating leopard. A leopard doesn't need the open country or the deep wilderness you'd expect. It will climb to a second-story window, pull a sleeping person straight through it, and be gone before anyone else in the house wakes up. And the thing that turned one ordinary leopard into a killer that emptied villages after dark wasn't hunger. It was a habit it was handed. The most infamous example is the leopard of Rudraprayag in the Himalayan foothills of India, which killed an estimated 125 people between 1918 and 1926. It dragged victims out of their own homes. For 8 years, people stopped traveling the pilgrim road to the holy shrines of Kedarnath and Badrinath after sundown. It was finally shot by the hunter and author Jim Corbett. Sit with that timeline. For 8 straight years, an entire region rearranged its nights around a single animal. Not a season, not a brief outbreak, nearly a decade of locked doors and silent roads. Leopards are the most adaptable of the big cats, comfortable living right alongside us. Corbett's theory was that this one first fed on unburied bodies during the 1918 flu pandemic, and when that supply ran out, it simply kept hunting the same easy prey it had grown used to. Here, the switch didn't get flipped by a flood or a whole population. It got flipped by a single stretch of death, and one animal that never learned to stop. The road it haunted led to holy shrines, places people walked to in search of protection. For 8 years, the most dangerous part of the pilgrimage was the leopard waiting along the way. The Komodo Dragon. It doesn't need to win the first encounter with you. It only needs to land one bite, and then follow you, for as long as it takes, while what's inside that bite does the rest of the work. Most of its attacks on people are defensive, the result of a startled animal, but the rare ones that aren't reveal a hunting strategy built entirely around outlasting the victim. The Komodo dragon is the largest lizard alive, reaching 10 feet and over 300 pounds, and it lives on a handful of Indonesian islands. Its bite delivers venom that drops blood pressure and stops blood from clotting, and it will trail wounded prey across long distances. There are documented predatory attacks on humans on those islands, including fatal ones. One bite introduces the venom and opens a wound that won't close. The dragon doesn't keep fighting. It steps back and waits, sometimes for hours, tracking the scent of blood that won't stop, until the prey simply can't keep going. As the top predator on small islands with limited large prey, it runs a hunting style that spends almost no energy on the chase. It puts everything into one venom-loaded bite and lets time finish the job. And a slow-moving human fits that strategy uncomfortably well. The old claim was that Komodo dragons kill through filthy, bacteria-loaded mouths. Turns out it's the venom doing the real work. Specialized glands that lower blood pressure and prevent clotting, accomplishing in hours what infection used to get the credit for. It's one of the only predators that can lose the fight and still win the hunt. The Indian wolf. The danger here isn't some encounter deep in the wilderness. It's the edge of a village at dusk, and a wolf that has learned the smallest, slowest humans are the easiest meal within reach. Wolves almost never hunt people, which is exactly what makes the rare, well-documented cases so hard to explain away. In Uttar Pradesh, India, in the late 1990s, a series of wolf attacks killed dozens of children. The victims were overwhelmingly very young, taken from near their own settlements, and the pattern was driven by vanishing wild prey and shrinking habitat. It echoes the historical European records of man-eating wolves that haunted whole districts. And the math of it is grim precisely because it's small. A single problem wolf, or a tiny pack, doesn't need many successful hunts to terrorize an entire region. A few dozen children over a few months is enough to empty the fields at dusk. When wild prey collapses and livestock is well guarded, a desperate wolf starts scanning for the easiest remaining target. In a dense rural landscape, that target is sometimes an unattended child at the edge of a field, and a wolf that succeeds once will come back to do it again. Most people assume wolves simply don't hunt humans full stop. The documented outbreaks tell us that under prey collapse and habitat loss, a small number of them learn to, and they specialize fast. The wolf at the door in the old fairy tales was never the fantasy. The fantasy was that it only existed in the stories. The bull shark. The danger isn't out past the breakers, where you brace yourself for it. It's in the murky river mouth shallows, in the brackish water, even miles up a freshwater river, exactly where nobody is watching for a shark. The bull shark isn't the biggest, and it isn't the most famous, but it hunts in the one place the others can't follow. It's aggressive, territorial, and it carries a rare ability to regulate the salt in its own body, which lets it survive in fresh water. And it's frequently the real animal behind attacks that get blamed on other species. Think about how far that reach extends. Most sharks are locked to the ocean by their own biology. This one has turned up more than 700 miles up the Amazon, and far up the Mississippi, hunting in water where the word shark never even crosses anyone's mind. That salt regulating trick lets it leave the sea entirely and patrol estuaries and rivers, the exact warm, cloudy shallows where people swim. Low visibility plus an aggressive temperament means it tends to strike first and figure out what it hit afterward. And despite topping the headlines so often, bull sharks usually aren't the ones named in a given shark attack. Their tolerance for fresh water puts them where almost no one expects a hunting shark to be, which is a big part of why they're so often the real culprit. The most dangerous shark in the world might be the one swimming in water you were sure no shark could reach. Reputation is a poor shield. The animals that hunt us rarely match the ones we're taught to fear. The Njombe Lions. Every other entry on this list is a single killer, or one cursed stretch of land. This is what happens when hunting humans stops being one animal's habit and becomes a population's culture, taught from adults down to cubs. The number attached to it is so large it sounds invented. It isn't. And the most disturbing part is how organized they became. Between roughly 1932 and 1947, in the Njombe district of what was then Tanganyika, a pride of lions was credited with killing an estimated 1,500 people. They reportedly coordinated their movements, struck different villages in sequence, and hunted in daylight. They were finally stopped by the hunter George Rushby. To this day, they're considered the deadliest man-eaters in recorded history. Let that scale land. One man-eating lion is a regional disaster. This was a pride killing at a rate of around 100 people a year for 15 years, faster than a war and far quieter than one. The cause traces back to a collapse in wild game, likely made worse by disease moving through the prey herds, which pushed the pride onto the most available alternative. And once the cubs grew up hunting people right alongside the adults, the behavior wasn't a fluke anymore. It was inherited, taught, refined across generations. The polar bear was born with the switch on. The Njombe Lions show the other ending. Flip it in one animal, give it 15 years and a new generation, and it stops being a switch at all. It becomes who they are. The scariest thing a predator can ever learn is that we are prey. The Njombe Lions learned it so well, they taught it to their children. If you made it all the way to the end of this one, I post new animal deep dives like this regularly, so hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.